Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a horror fantasy film, LIVID. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with Lucy, a young nurse, sitting at a bus stop. Behind her is a notice board filled with posters of missing women. A car driven by the mentor pulls up and she gets in. The mentor introduces herself to Lucy and remarks that she has strange eyes. Lucy explains that she has heterochromia, which means that a pigment discoloration resulted in her having one blue and one brown eye. The mentor tells her that it means she has two souls. Lucy is set to start her job as an in-house caregiver the same day. The two arrive at an apartment complex to visit an elderly man who will be Lucy's first assignment. He does not need much except for a routine injection. However, the elderly man begins to protest, and Lucy suggests that she do the injection to the elderly man. She calms him down and administers the medicine successfully. The pair then drive to a secluded manor in the woods. The mentor tells her that she is not ready yet to handle this particular patient, so she should just stay in the car. She then leaves with her medical bag. A few minutes later, Lucy can't help but get out of the car and wander inside the estate. She walks down the long driveway and finally sees the manor. It is now run down, but it must have been a wonder in its heyday. Lucy pushes open the door and steps into the foyer. Like its exterior, the inside of the house is also neglected. For some reason, she is attracted to the antique images of ballerinas adorning the walls. Heavy sighs of relief as she enters the main bedroom. Lucy looks down at the bed and finds an elderly lady in a coma. Her mentor is impressed by her curiosity and tells her more about the woman, who was a world-famous dance instructor. Lucy notices that the instructor is receiving a blood transfusion from a dextrose bag and asks her mentor about it, but the woman shrugs and says that's for the doctors to know. She explains that the instructor had a deaf daughter who died years ago and that she now has no other family left. Her last wish is to die at home, which is why she's here and not in a retirement home. More importantly, the mentor divulges that the instructor is rich and has hidden away her treasures somewhere in the house. Lucy notices a key hanging in a necklace around the instructor's throat, and the mentor comments that she's tried every locked door she could find in the house to no avail. The mentor then asks her to pick any book from the massive bookshelf in the room. She does as she says and picks up a slim and dusty book. Lucy opens it and a moth flies out. Once they've made sure that all the machines hooked up to the instructor are working well, the two leave. They reach the town, and the mentor drops Lucy off and reminds her that they'll meet the next day at the same time and place. The mentor drives off and turns left at a deserted road. Up ahead is a young girl riding a bike. The car steadily catches up to the girl, and the mentor gives the girl a dark look. Back in town, Lucy walks to the dock and watches as a fishing boat slowly approaches. Her boyfriend disembarks and gives her a kiss. He tells her that he needs a few minutes to unpack his fishing gear, and then they can go out for a beer. The young couple finally enters a pub a little while later. They sit down at a table, and the boyfriend's brother, who's working as a waiter there, warmly greets them. Lucy tells the two brothers about the old, dilapidated house and the missing treasure. Her boyfriend gets excited at the prospect of finding the treasure and asks her to take them there. The boyfriend reasons that he is so tired of working as a fisherman, and he no longer wants to do that. Lucy gets mad at him for proposing to do a crime, and she walks out of the bar. Her boyfriend quickly follows her outside. He reminds her that her family is having financial troubles too, and she could use the money. Lucy angrily retorts that her boyfriend had just finished a stint in jail for stealing a TV set, and he can no longer afford another mistake. Her boyfriend urges her to reconsider, then leaves. On the other hand, the young girl that the mentor encountered earlier while driving is lying dead in her bathtub in her apartment. She drains the girl of her blood and uses it to fill up a dextrose bag, similar to the one used in the transfusions for the instructor. She smokes a cigarette as she nonchalantly carries on with her gruesome task. We can see that the mentor had killed the girl and will use her blood for nefarious purposes, most likely to feed the instructor. The following day, Lucy arrives at the home she shares with her widower father. She hears the father's conversation on the phone with his new girlfriend, and she's disgusted. Lucy reprimands him for moving on too soon, after her mother's death just 8 months ago. Her father answers that his new girlfriend is a lovely girl, and she'll come to visit, so they can get to know each other. After he leaves, she gets a vision of her dead mother, sitting next to her with a cord around her neck. Later that night, Lucy calls her boyfriend and agrees to break into the instructor's house for the treasure, but on the condition that they do not damage anything in the house. The two brothers pick her up, and they proceed to drive to the instructor's house. On the way, the men argue about whether they should wear white cloth masks on their faces to hide their identity, but they ultimately decide against it. The two brothers climb over the gates and walk through the manor grounds. Lucy sees a strange green flame on the grass and touches it. The boyfriend's brother ominously whispers that those who are attracted to the flame will meet the Grim Reaper. The trio spends a few minutes trying to find a way in, eventually breaking in through a window that leads to the basement. Finally, inside, they make their way through the cramped space and out into the foyer. The brother gets scared by a taxidermied wolf and noisily knocks over a vase. They discover what looks like a child's room upstairs, complete with dolls sitting around a table. There is another door in the room, but it's locked. Lucy surmises that the key around the instructor's neck will open that door. They go upstairs to retrieve the key. Lucy finds the instructor in the same state they left her earlier that day, and she grabs the key. The trio goes back to the room, but the key does not work. The boyfriend's brother then desperately forces the door open. However, there is no hidden treasure in the room. They find what looks like a life-size doll covered in a white veil. The boyfriend yanks the veil off, and to their horror, they discover that it's the corpse of the instructor's dead daughter, dressed in a ballerina costume. They notice a keyhole by the daughter's feet and insert the key they found. The daughter then begins to move like a ballerina in a music box, spinning as a piano lullaby plays. They then begin to hear creaking noises from upstairs. The group gets spooked and tries to escape. However, when they reach the basement window they entered earlier, they discover that bars were mysteriously placed there to prevent them from leaving. They scamper back into the hall and upstairs, and they get trapped inside the master's bedroom. They try to open the window so they can climb down, but the boyfriend's brother suddenly gets separated from them. The boyfriend's brother finds himself in a dark room with surgical implements. Young ballet dancers with veils then appear and attack him with hammers. They hack away at his body until he dies. Then they disappear in the blink of an eye. The boyfriend is still trying to open the window back in the room. Lucy finds a picture of the instructor and her daughter. She gets the idea that they should return to the girl's room and tries to convince her boyfriend to come with her, but he refuses. She goes back to the daughter's room and examines it. She is browsing through the girl's closet when a toy horse begins to move. Lucy sits down at the table and realizes that the instructor is sitting in front of her. They clasp hands, and she gets a vision. Lucy sees a younger instructor terrorizing the class with her teaching methods. One of her students isn't performing well, so the instructor makes her leave the class. The student goes to her locker and encounters the instructor's daughter, who smiles at her. They hear the girl's screams in the classroom, and the instructor hurriedly dismisses her class. She then finds her daughter drinking blood from the dead student. She scolds her daughter for killing someone. The police can trace back to her. It is revealed that both mother and daughter are vampires and have been slaughtering people to slake their thirst. The daughter protests against her mother's orders to stay inside the house and defiantly goes outside. However, the daughter's body weakens, and her mother carries her back inside, reminding her that the outside world is cruel and only she can love her daughter. Meanwhile, the boyfriend is still trying to open the window. His brother, now a newly turned vampire, suddenly appears and attacks him. He manages to get a hold of a pair of scissors and stabs his brother with them. The instructor emerges from the shadows, kills the boyfriend, and then feeds on him. Lucy has another vision. This time, it's the instructor punishing her daughter for wanting to go outside. She orders the girl to dance and kicks her back to force her to get into the proper dancing position. However, the instructor goes too far and breaks the daughter's spine, killing her. Lucy comes to her senses and steps closer to the daughter's corpse. The girl suddenly moves and attacks her. She gets Lucy in a chokehold and punches her until the other girl retaliates and knocks out the daughter. She turns around and sees the mentor, who then also knocks her out. Lucy wakes up lying on an operating table, with the mentor watching over her. She reveals that she was one of the young ballerinas in the instructor's class, and she witnessed her daughter's death. The instructor took her to the operating room, where she put screws on her daughter's broken back, so she could stand upright as a life-sized ballerina doll. Since then, she's been scouting for young women to feed on for the teacher. This is why so many individuals have gone missing in their community. But Lucy will play a unique role, one that they have been waiting for all these years. The instructor enters the room and begins a ritual that will switch the bodies of Lucy and her daughter. She inserts a moth in each girl's throat and staples Lucy's eyes shut. Her goal is to transfer her daughter's soul to Lucy's body so she can be whole again. The moth that flew out from the book Lucy picked earlier was a sign that she is the girl they've been waiting for. Lucy sees a vision of her dead mother and reaches for her, but she blacks out. The ritual seems to work, and the daughter wakes up in Lucy's body with both of her eyes blue. The instructor orders her to dance, but she refuses to obey. The mentor tries to punish her for this, but the daughter quickly takes the scissors and stabs her. She also attacks her mother and kills her. Clearly, she still resents her mother for selfishly cutting her off from the world and keeping her as a doll all these years. She goes to reform her body and cuts the staples that hold the eyes shut. Her face now has one blue and brown eye, signaling that Lucy is now in the daughter's body. The two girls seem to be at peace and quietly clean the scene. But the instructor is still alive and tackles the daughter. But the two girls work together to send the instructor to fall off the top floor finally. They also tear the instructor's body apart to ensure she won't ever wake up again. The movie ends with two girls falling asleep while hugging each other. In the morning, they walk to the seaside cliff by the house. Lucy, who is in the daughter's body, is noticeably weak. Lucy is now letting go of the daughter's body, allowing herself to soar into the sky. Lucy is finally happy and at peace. The daughter wistfully looks at the other girl as Lucy flies away. A new chapter in the daughter's life is now starting, one where she can enjoy the freedom her mother stole from her many years ago. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.